During U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's visit to Mexico, both countries reaffirmed their commitment to cross border security cooperation while emphasizing respect for each other's sovereignty. The collaboration focuses on stopping drug and gun trafficking, controlling migration, and includes the creation of a high level implementation group to coordinate ongoing efforts. The meeting came amid heightened regional concerns over U.S. military actions, including a recent deadly strike on a Venezuelan drug cartel vessel, which Mexico criticized as interventionist, the Associated Press reported. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum stressed non intervention and defended Mexico's sovereignty, while Rubio highlighted the long standing security partnership and urged continued collaboration on trade and migration issues. The U.S. Defense Department said two Venezuelan fighter jets flew close to the guided missile destroyer Jason Dunham in international waters, calling the move highly provocative and warning Caracas not to interfere with U.S. counter narcotics operations. Venezuela has not commented on the incident, instead, highlighting President Nicolas Maduro's activation of the national militia amid rising tensions. Washington accuses Maduro of ties to drug cartels and has deployed warships to the Caribbean, while Caracas denounces the buildup as a push for regime change, Al Jazeera reported. The standoff follows a recent U.S. strike on a speedboat allegedly linked to drug trafficking that killed 11 people, which Venezuela and legal experts criticized as an extrajudicial killing. American Eagle Outfitters' recent celebrity campaigns, featuring Euphoria star Sydney Sweeney and Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, have boosted brand awareness, engagement, and customer acquisition nationwide. This, according to the company's executives. The Sweeney campaign, launched in late July, generated notable attention and controversy for its imagery and messaging, while search interest and website traffic rose significantly. For the fiscal second quarter, ending August the 2nd, American Eagle reported net income of $77.6 million and $1.28 billion in revenue, slightly exceeding expectations, with comparable sales down 1% overall, but 3% at its chain, the Wall Street Journal has reported. The company expects low single-digit comparable sales growth in the third and the fourth quarters, and its stock jumped nearly 25% in after-hours trading following the earnings report. Newsmax is suing Fox News in a Florida federal court, alleging anti-competitive tactics to suppress rival conservative networks. The complaint claims that Fox uses exclusive content deals, financial penalties, and intimidation to block competitors. Newsmax seeks a ruling declaring Fox's actions unlawful and monetary damages. Fox dismissed the claims as a response to Newsmax's own competitive struggles, the BBC has reported. Newsmax, valued at $1.8 billion, has grown under Trump's support but previously settled a $67 million defamation suit over 2020 election coverage. Fox News also settled a $787.5 million Dominion lawsuit. The UK government is considering reintroducing digital ID cards as part of measures to curb illegal migration, following pressure from French President Emmanuel Macron. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer told Cabinet that he is exploring options requiring digital IDs for work, housing, benefits, and public services. The idea, previously abandoned over civil liberties concerns, is being studied with examples from France and Estonia, the Daily Mail has reported. Ministers are also discussing closing migrant hotels, cracking down on illegal work, and speeding up deportations as channel crossings rise nearly 50% this year. A new SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket successfully launched 24 Starlink satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base on September the 2nd. The booster, making its maiden flight, landed safely on the drone ship Just Read the Instructions and is expected to fly again. The satellites, which are part of a growing Starlink network, will join nearly 8,300 already in orbit, Space.com has reported. This marked SpaceX's 109th Falcon 9 launch of 2025, with over 70% dedicated to Starlink missions. A powerful 6.0 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Afghanistan late Monday, killing at least 1,124 people, injuring over 3,200, and destroying more than 8,000 homes. This, according to the Afghan Red Crescent Society. The death toll is expected to rise as rescuers struggle to reach remote mountain villages in Kunar and Nangarhar provinces, where many remain trapped under rubble. Difficult terrain, narrow roads, and bad weather have slowed rescue efforts, though helicopters and ambulances are delivering aid and evacuating the injured, Reuters has reported. Afghanistan's mountainous Hindu Kush region is highly prone to deadly earthquakes. Hundreds of Yemenis gathered in Sana'a on Monday to mourn Houthi Prime Minister Ahmed al-Rahawi and several other ministers killed in an Israeli strike last week, the most senior officials lost since Israel and the United States began targeting the group. The funeral, held at Shah Mosque, featured chants against Israel and the United States, with coffins draped in Yemeni flags. The strike followed a Houthi missile attack on Israel, while the group also renewed assaults on Red Sea shipping by targeting an oil tanker, NBC News has reported. The acting prime minister vowed the Houthis would continue fighting despite Israeli attacks. After spending 27 years in prison, Brian Hooper Sr. has been exonerated of the 1998 murder of a 77-year-old in Minneapolis. A judge vacated his conviction after a key witness, whose fingerprints were at the crime scene, recanted her testimony and confessed to the killing from a prison in Georgia. Hooper, once sentenced to life, maintained his innocence throughout and criticized the use of unreliable jailhouse informant testimony that helped convict him, CBS News has reported. Prosecutors admitted the case was tainted by false evidence and said their conviction integrity unit worked to clear his name. China showcased four-legged robot wolves at a military parade attended by global leaders including Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un. These gun-carrying robots, designed to navigate through rough terrain, climb stairs, carry heavy loads, and execute precision strikes up to 100 meters, are intended to operate in coordinated packs with a leader directing attacks. The parade highlighted China's advancement in robotics, signaling a more automated and potentially deadly future battlefield while demonstrating military prowess to both domestic and international audiences, the Hindustan Times has reported. A federal lawsuit accuses Pastor Mark Melhorn, a Baptist chaplain at the ice-run Moshannon Valley Processing Center in Pennsylvania, of sexually abusing a detainee, identified as Jane Doe, over more than a year. The complaint alleges Melhorn groomed Doe by giving her a Bible. Then it escalated to harassment, groping, and assault inside her cell, warning her not to report him. Despite Doe twice alerting facility staff, the investigations were closed as, quote, unsubstantiated due to a lack of video evidence, and Melhorn allegedly continued his misconduct. Doe, an undocumented immigrant from the Dominican Republic, was eventually released but remains traumatized. Her lawsuit also names the U.S. government, the GEO Group, which runs the facility, and a PREA investigator, citing systemic failures to prevent abuse amid long-standing reports of sexual misconduct in immigration detention, The Independent has reported. She is seeking damages and accountability. An 11-year-old boy in Houston, Texas, died after being shot in the back while allegedly playing a door-knocking prank late Saturday night, police have said. The child collapsed a block from the home and was pronounced dead at a local area hospital on Sunday. A man believed to have fired multiple shots has been detained but not yet charged. Police found numerous weapons inside his house. The incident is linked to the door-kicking challenge, a viral trend where kids bang on doors and then run away, which authorities warn can be mistaken for break-ins and lead to dangerous consequences, ABC News has reported. Similar cases have been reported across Texas and Arizona. The Army has extended the deployment of about 950 D.C. National Guard troops through November 30th, though President Trump could shorten or further extend it. The decision, approved by the Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, allows guard members and their employers to plan around the longer orders and prevents gaps in pay or benefits. Trump mobilized the Guard last month to address crime in Washington, D.C., though troops have mainly been seen doing cleanup and landscaping work as part of a beautification push, ABC News has reported. About 1,300 additional Guard troops from other states remain under their governor's control, with many already ordered to stay through December. A series of powerful earthquakes, including a 6.2 magnitude tremor on Thursday, have devastated eastern Afghanistan, raising the death toll from Sunday's earthquake to over 2,200. Entire villages in Kunar province were destroyed, with nearly all homes damaged, leaving tens of thousands homeless. Rescue efforts are hampered by landslides, rough terrain, and severe shortages of aid, as international support has dwindled since the Taliban takeover. Aid agencies warn of critical gaps in funding, staff, and supplies, while survivors face dire conditions without shelter, food, or clean water, The Guardian has reported. The disaster compounds Afghanistan's ongoing economic crisis, drought, and mass refugee returns. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, signaling closer ties with U.S. rivals amid trade tensions with Washington. Modi emphasized India as a partner, not a rival, to China, and held a bilateral meeting with Putin, who called him a, quote, dear friend. The visit follows the United States imposing a 50% tariff on Indian goods, and while Modi avoided directly criticizing President Trump, the trip highlights cooling U.S.-India relations, Fox News has reported. U.S. immigration authorities raided Hyundai's massive EV manufacturing site in Bryan County, Georgia, halting construction at an adjacent battery plant and detaining about 450 people in an immigration enforcement operation. Homeland Security said the raid was part of a criminal probe into unlawful employment practices, while South Korea's government expressed concern over the treatment of its citizens and businesses. The $7.6 billion project, billed as Georgia's largest economic development investment, remains central to Hyundai's U.S. EV expansion, though the battery plant construction has been paused, CBS News has reported. Hyundai said vehicle production at the site was not disrupted. An 85-year-old man was killed and his 82-year-old wife injured when a herd of cows trampled them while hiking with their dog in the Austrian Alps. The couple was taken to a Salzburg hospital where the man died before surgery. Local authorities are investigating pending an autopsy, CBS News has reported. Fatal cow attacks are rare in Austria, which has issued hiking safety guidelines to avoid such incidents. Suntory Holdings CEO and chairman Takeshi Nianami, 66 years old, has resigned after allegations that he purchased supplements containing illegal THC substances. Nianami, a high-profile figure in Japanese business and politics, maintained that he believed the supplements were legal. Japanese authorities had searched his Tokyo home as part of an investigation into cannabis-derived products, CNN has reported. His resignation, effective on September the 1st, was accepted by Suntory, with the company stating the investigation involved supplements that Nianami thought were lawful. The death toll from the Lisbon streetcar crash rose to 17 after 2 more victims died in the hospital, while 21 others, including a 3-year-old child, were injured. The victims represented a range of nationalities, highlighting the streetcar's popularity with tourists during the busy summer season. Authorities have not confirmed the cause of the derailment, and investigations are ongoing, with forensic teams working overnight on autopsies and detectives documenting the wreckage, the Associated Press has reported. The crash prompted a national day of mourning in Portugal, suspension of other historic streetcar operations in the city, and condolences from government officials and EU leaders, as Lisbon grapples with one of its deadliest recent tragedies. 13-year-old Jackson DeNeo of Hampton, New Hampshire, caught a 177-pound Atlantic halibut on a deep-sea fishing trip off the New England coast, reeling in a fish that was larger than himself after a 30-minute struggle. The catch may qualify as a world record under the International Game Fish Association's junior category, where the Atlantic halibut record is currently vacant. Danilo, thrilled by the experience, says the massive haul has only fueled his desire to get back on the water and try for an even bigger catch, the Associated Press has reported. Nevada authorities have launched a homicide investigation after a man was found dead at the Burning Man festival on Saturday night. Pershing County Sheriff Jerry Allen said the victim was a white male, 35 to 40 years old, about 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, with short brown hair and facial hair. He was discovered in a pool of blood in Black Rock City as the festival's main effigy burned. Officials are asking the public for help with identification and any leads on any suspects, The Guardian has reported. Burning Man organizers said they are cooperating with law enforcement, while police urged participants to remain vigilant as the investigation continues. Gold prices hit a record high above $3,500 per ounce as investors flock to safe haven assets amid inflation, weakening currencies, and geopolitical risks. The surge, nearly doubling gold's value since early 2023, comes as central banks shift reserves from U.S. treasuries to gold. European bond yields also spiked to multi-year highs, pressuring markets and governments, while the pound and the European stocks fell, The Guardian has reported. Analysts predict gold could reach $3,700 to $4,000 an ounce if instability deepens, with silver also climbing to its highest level since 2011. Kraft Heinz will split into two companies, reversing much of its $46 billion 2015 merger. One company will focus on shelf-stable meals, including Heinz, Philadelphia, and Kraft Mac and Cheese, with $15.4 billion in projected 2025 sales. The other will hold North American staples like Oscar Mayer, Kraft Singles, and Lunchables, with $10.4 billion in projected sales. The split aims to simplify operations, better allocate resources, and boost performance after years of declining U.S. sales, accounting controversies, and brand write-downs, CNBC has reported. The move follows a broader trend of food industry breakups, including Keurig Dr. Pepper and Kellogg. China is set to unveil what it claims is, quote, the most powerful laser air defense system in the world during a military parade in Beijing marking 80 years since World War II. The truck-mounted laser, speculated to be a 10-kilowatt OW5-A10, which is capable of intercepting drone swarms, will be showcased alongside new anti-ship missiles. The parade, attended by Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, reflects China's focus on advanced domestic military technology amid rising global defense spending, the Metro has reported. Analysts caution that while the PLA demonstrates progress, the true capabilities of such weapons remain uncertain. Israel successfully launched the OFEC-19 satellite, a high-tech synthetic aperture radar observation satellite, using the Shavit launcher. Developed by Israel Aerospace Industries in collaboration with ELTA, Tomer Limited, and Rafael, the satellite underwent initial tests in orbit before beginning data transmission. The launch was led by Israel's DDR&D Space Program Office and involved key IDF units, including Unit 9900 and the Air Force, 7 Israel National News has reported. Nestle has abruptly fired its CEO a year into his tenure for failing to disclose a romantic relationship with a subordinate, violating company conduct rules. Now, the former head of Nespresso has been appointed as his immediate successor. The dismissal follows 2 internal investigations and comes amid a challenging consumer market and ongoing U.S. trade disruptions. The CEO will not receive an exit package, CNN reported. The sudden leadership change adds uncertainty to Nestle's strategy, with shares down 17% over the past year, and it follows a broader trend of high-profile CEO departures over personal conduct issues in global consumer companies. At a Paris summit, Western allies led by France and the United Kingdom pledged to provide Ukraine with security guarantees, including a potential reassurance force after any ceasefire. French President Emmanuel Macron said 26 allies were prepared to commit troops, though details remain unclear. Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected the plan, warning that foreign forces in Ukraine would be, quote, legitimate targets. While the United States has ruled out ground troops, President Donald Trump signaled possible air support, the BBC has reported. Ukraine sees the initiative as a step forward, but Putin cast doubt on any peace deal, blaming Kyiv's territorial demands, while Western leaders accused Moscow of stalling to gain more ground. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping met in Beijing ahead of China's largest ever military parade, describing their relationship as at an, quote, unprecedented level. Russia will increase gas supplies to China, while Beijing will trial visa-free travel for Russians. Xi is also set to host North Korea's Kim Jong-un, marking his first multilateral international meeting. The gathering highlights China's growing global influence and solidarity with Russia and North Korea amid the Ukraine war, with both Putin and Xi criticizing the West and promoting alternative international governance, the BBC has reported. The parade will feature tens of thousands of troops, signaling China's diplomatic and military power. 2 Colombian soldiers were seriously burned after being doused with gasoline and then set on fire during an anti-drug operation near the Ecuadorian border. The attack occurred as military personnel attempted to destroy a cocaine lab, and the army accused the Comandos de Frontera, a dissident FARC faction, of orchestrating the assault and coercing local civilians. Such violent incidents have become increasingly common in Colombia amid rising criminal activity, including drug trafficking, illegal mining, and extortion, which have worsened the country's security crisis, CBS News has reported. Authorities are taking action against the armed groups involved, while peace talks with guerrilla factions like the ELN and the dissident FARC units remain fragile and sporadically disrupted by attacks. France has ordered its hospitals to prepare for the possibility of all-out war with Russia, with plans to treat large numbers of wounded NATO troops by March of 2026. Leaked documents show France expects to become a hub for battlefield casualties, integrating military care into its civilian health system. The move comes amid heightened fears of World War III, with NATO on alert ahead of Russia's 2025 war games and leaders warning of a potential Russia-China axis against the West, the U.S. Sun has reported. Across Europe, nations are stockpiling supplies, reviving conscription, conducting evacuation drills, and building defenses, while Britain and France have strengthened their nuclear pact for the first time. At least 60 people have died after a boat carrying over 100 passengers capsized in Niger State, Nigeria, while heading to Duga for a condolence visit. Authorities said the accident was caused by overloading and a collision with a submerged tree stump. Women and children made up the majority of the victims, and rescue operations are ongoing to locate missing passengers, Al Jazeera has reported. Boat accidents are common in Nigeria's river areas, particularly during the rainy season, due to overcrowding, poorly maintained vessels, and lax safety enforcement. Graham Linehan, co-creator of Father Ted and the It Crowd, says that he was arrested at Heathrow Airport over posts about transgender people that police alleged incited violence. Linehan, 57, has a history of controversial comments about trans women, including calling them violent criminals in women-only spaces. He was released on bail with a ban on posting to X after being hospitalized for high blood pressure during questioning. His arrest follows recent United Kingdom rulings restricting trans women's access to single-sex places and has drawn criticism from conservative MPs, the Associated Press has reported. Linehan is also due in court this week on a separate charge of harassing a transgender woman, which he denies. A fast-moving wildfire, part of the TCU September Lightning Complex, engulfed California's historic Chinese camp town, forcing evacuations and burning at least 5 homes. The fire has spread to 10 square miles with no containment, prompting CAL FIRE to request additional engines, dozers, and aircraft. Residents attempted to protect their homes with sand and tree branches until firefighters arrived, and an RV on one property was damaged, The Hill has reported. The blaze, caused by lightning, is one of the more than a dozen fires across the state, threatening the Gold Rush-era town originally settled by Chinese miners after facing persecution in nearby camps. House leaders are privately discussing delaying the government funding deadline by a month or two to avoid a shutdown in 4 weeks. Speaker Mike Johnson and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries have talked about extending funding into November or even December, while GOP leaders explore both a short-term continuing resolution and a broader bipartisan deal. Appropriators hope to pass select bills early, such as for agriculture, veterans affairs, and military construction, while tacking a stopgap for the rest, Politico has reported. Democrats, however, resist supporting partisan funding, citing concerns over unilateral cuts by the administration and pressure from their base. Florida plans to end all state vaccine mandates, including those for school children. This, according to the Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo, who compared the requirements to slavery. The Department of Health will begin removing 4 vaccines from state rules and broaden exemptions to include personal beliefs, while a broader medical freedom package is planned for lawmakers. Health experts warn that ending mandates could increase the risk of disease outbreaks, pointing out that immunization rates among Florida kindergartners have already fallen to a 20-year low, the Tampa Bay Times has reported. The announcement marks a significant break from public health guidelines and has sparked political debate, with the Democrats condemning the move and Governor Ron DeSantis highlighting it as part of his conservative legacy. 2 Washington, D.C. grand juries declined to indict individuals accused of threatening President Donald Trump's life, halting both cases. One involved Natalie Rose Jones, who allegedly posted threats online and then repeated them to Secret Service agents, while the other involved Edward Alexander Dana, who made threats during an arrest for vandalism. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro criticized the decisions as politically motivated and a sign of a, quote, broken system, while Dana's lawyer argued prosecutors were pursuing weak cases, Fox News has reported. China, Russia, and North Korea's leaders appeared together publicly for the first time at a massive military parade in Beijing, marking 80 years since the end of World War II. President Xi Jinping showcased China's advanced weapons, including nuclear missiles, drones, and robotic systems, while calling for peace and global cooperation. On the sidelines, Vladimir Putin praised North Korea for sending troops to Ukraine, and he and Kim Jong-un met with Xi and other invited dignitaries. Most Western leaders skipped the event. U.S. President Donald Trump accused the 3 leaders of conspiring against the United States, which Kremlin officials denied, the BBC has reported. The parade included 50,000 vetted spectators, military demonstrations, and ceremonial lunch at the Great Hall of the People. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un brought his young daughter Kim Ju-ae to Beijing for the 80th anniversary World War II celebrations, marking her first known trip outside of the country. Observers suggest that her presence may signal her potential role in future succession, following the North Korean tradition of introducing heirs to China to build political relationships. Analysts caution, however, that her youth, gender, and lack of military experience make it too early to confirm her as the next leader, CBS News has reported. Kim's prominent positioning alongside Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin at the parade underscored his political win and the normalization of North Korea-China relations, strengthening his international standing and his influence. Asteroid 2025 QD8 safely passed near Earth on September 3rd, coming within 135,500 miles, or about 57% of the distance from Earth to the Moon, traveling at about 28,000 miles per hour. Measuring 56 to 125 feet across, it posed no threat. The flyby was streamed live by the Virtual Telescope Project, and NASA confirmed that neither this asteroid nor any other known asteroids pose an impact risk for the next century, the Jerusalem Post has reported. Another small asteroid, 2025 QV5, about 36 feet wide, also passed safely at nearly twice the distance from Earth to the Moon. Both encounters offered opportunities to study near Earth objects and test detection systems. Tesla has proposed a new compensation plan for CEO Elon Musk that could pay him up to $1 trillion if he meets ambitious targets over the next decade. The plan, detailed in an SEC filing, requires Tesla to reach an $8.5 trillion market cap, deliver 20 million cars, produce 1 million Optimus robots, deploy 1 million robotaxis, gain 10 million full self-driving subscribers, and grow EBITDA to $400 billion. The package, paid in tranches, also includes developing a CEO succession framework and would tie Musk to the company for at least 10 years. Shareholders will vote on this plan in November, Business Insider has reported. The proposal follows a court-struck $46.8 billion pay package and comes amid Tesla's global share slump and a 16% drop in its stock price this year. Lululemon shares fell over 12% in after-hours trading on Thursday after the company issued a weaker-than-expected full-year outlook. While second quarter earnings beat estimates at $3.10 per share, revenue of $2.53 billion slightly missed expectations. The company blamed tariffs, projecting a $240 million hit to profits, and lowered full-year EPS guidance to 12.77 to 12.97 versus 14.45 expected, with revenue forecast at $10.85 to $11 billion versus the $11.18 billion that was anticipated. Same-store sales in the Americas fell 4%, and the company cited stale product offerings in its lounge and social categories as a key issue. The CEO, Calvin McDonald, said Lululemon plans to revamp its product range, increasing new styles and improving design to drive growth, CNBC has reported. Third quarter guidance also fell short of Wall Street expectations. On July 1st of this year, the Atlas telescope in Chile discovered 3I Atlas, the third known interstellar comet to enter our solar system and the largest and brightest yet. NASA's Sphere-X Space Observatory detected abundant carbon dioxide in its coma and water ice in its nucleus, showing the comet behaves like a typical solar system comet despite originating elsewhere. The absence of carbon monoxide suggests that 3I Atlas was, quote, well baked before ejection from its parent system and may be 2 to 3 times older than the solar system comets, Space.com has reported. Sphere-X infrared mapping capabilities allow unprecedented study of such interstellar visitors, and scientists will continue monitoring 3I Atlas as it nears the Sun in late October, when its water and dust comas are. On July 1st of this year, the Atlas telescope in Chile discovered 3I Atlas, the third known interstellar comet to enter our solar system and the largest and brightest yet. NASA's Sphere-X Space Observatory detected abundant carbon dioxide in its coma and water ice in its nucleus, showing the comet behaves like a typical solar system comet despite originating elsewhere. The absence of carbon monoxide suggests that 3I Atlas was, quote, well baked before ejection from its parent system and may be 2 to 3 times older than the solar system comets, Space.com has reported. Sphere-X infrared mapping capabilities allow unprecedented study of such interstellar visitors, and scientists will continue monitoring 3I Atlas as it nears the Sun in late October, when its water and dust comas are expected to intensify. The GOP-led House Oversight Committee has withdrawn its request for former FBI Director Robert Mueller to testify, citing his health issues. Chairman James Comer had subpoenaed Mueller for September the 2nd as part of the committee's investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein files. Mueller, who served as FBI director from 2001 to 2013, has been battling Parkinson's disease since 2021. This, according to his family, who requested privacy regarding his condition, ABC News has reported. Former U.S. President Joe Biden recently underwent surgery to remove cancerous skin cells, his office has confirmed. He is reportedly recovering well. Biden, who is 82 years old, has a history of basal cell carcinoma, having had cancerous lesions removed from his chest in 2023, and his former First Lady Jill Biden also had skin lesions removed that year. The news follows Biden's disclosure earlier in 2024 of aggressive, bone metastasized prostate cancer, which is being actively managed, NBC News has reported. His health has been a topic of public and partisan discussion, particularly after his decision to end his 2024 re-election bid. A suicide bombing at the Balochistan National Party rally in Quetta killed 15 people and injured dozens, the province's interior minister has said. The attack occurred in a stadium parking lot as participants were dispersing, and the Islamic State claimed responsibility through its propaganda channels. Balochistan, Pakistan's largest but poorest province, has long faced insurgency and separatist violence, with armed groups targeting both state forces and civilians, France 24 has reported. The attack comes amid broader unrest in the region, including paramilitary casualties from bombings and previous high-profile incidents such as Balak separatists, as local groups continue to demand greater rights and economic investment for the Baloch people. Israel has launched a ground operation in Gaza City. IDF Chief Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir confirmed, calling it a decisive stage in the war against Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised soldiers and reiterated demands for Hamas to release all hostages, disarm, and relinquish control of Gaza. Defense Minister Israel Katz warned Gaza City could face destruction similar to Rafah if Hamas refuses Israel's terms, ABC News has reported. Meanwhile, humanitarian conditions in Gaza continue to deteriorate. The Hamas-run health ministry reported at least 76 people killed in the past day, including 12 seeking aid, while famine and malnutrition deaths, 361 since October, including 130 children, are rising, with aid groups describing the situation as, quote, mass starvation. Burkina Faso's transitional military government has passed a law criminalizing homosexuality, imposing prison sentences of 2 to 5 years, fines, and deportation for foreigners. The Justice Minister announced the measure, which takes immediate effect, as part of broader family and citizenship reforms. The law was unanimously approved by 71 unelected members of the Transitional Assembly. Rights groups are expected to condemn the move, which adds to concerns over human rights under the current president's rule since the 2022 coups, Al Jazeera has reported. Burkina Faso now joins more than half of African nations, including recent cases in Mali, Ghana, and Uganda, that have enacted or toughened anti-LGBTQ laws. The U.S. has deployed a major naval force to the southern Caribbean, including ships, marines, aircraft, and submarines, while conducting amphibious landing exercises in Puerto Rico. Though officially framed as training, the buildup comes amid escalating tensions with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whom the Trump administration labels a narco-terrorist and has offered a $50 million reward for. The deployment follows a U.S. strike on a Venezuela-linked drug boat, signaling a sharper military approach to narcotics interdiction, TWZ has reported. Maduro has denounced the U.S. presence as a grave threat and mobilized millions of militia members and thousands of troops, warning of readiness to repel an attack. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has approved sending up to 600 military lawyers to the Justice Department to serve as temporary immigration judges, effectively doubling the current bench. The move aims to ease a backlog of about 3.5 million cases, but comes amid criticism that military attorneys lack immigration law expertise. Immigration lawyers warned the plan undermines due process, while the White House says it is exploring multiple options to address the crisis, the Associated Press has reported. The military judges will serve in 179-day terms, renewable as needed. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will visit Mexico and Ecuador next week, marking his fourth trip to the Western Hemisphere since becoming President Trump's top diplomat. The visit aims to address U.S. priorities, including curbing illegal migration, combating drug cartels, and countering Chinese influence in the region. Rubio has previously traveled to multiple Latin American countries, negotiating deportation agreements and supporting efforts to limit China's economic footprint, including Panama reclaiming canal port control, the Associated Press has reported. The trip runs from Tuesday to Thursday in Mexico City and Quito. During a military parade in Beijing, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping were overheard discussing organ transplants and the potential for humans to significantly extend lifespan, even achieving immortality. The conversation, caught on a hot mic, reflects both leaders' long-standing fascination with longevity and life extension technologies, with Putin supporting Kremlin-funded research into cell renewal and organ printing. The parade, attended by Kim Jong-un and other authoritarian leaders, featured a massive display of military hardware and was framed as a show of defiance against the West, The Guardian has reported. In his formal address, Xi emphasized China's strength and resilience, portraying the nation as, quote, unstoppable and, quote, never intimidated by any bullies, underscoring the event's political as well as ceremonial significance. U.S. President Donald Trump accused Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Kim Jong-un of conspiring against the United States after their joint appearance at a Beijing military parade marking the 80th anniversary of Japan's World War II surrender. Trump posted on Truth Social, referencing U.S. sacrifices in China during the war and sending greetings to the three leaders while alleging a plot against America. The parade, featuring thousands of troops and China's latest weaponry, also highlighted growing ties between China, Russia, and North Korea, with Kim visiting Beijing for the first time since 2019, Fox News has reported. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness has won a historic third term after his Labour Party secured 34 seats, defeating the opposition People's National Party, which won 29 seats. Holness, who is 53 years old, campaigned on lowering income taxes and was credited with reducing the country's homicide rate to a 25-year low. The election focused on crime and the economy, with Labour highlighting a low 3.3% unemployment rate, while the opposition criticized government spending and questioned Holness's integrity, the BBC has reported. Voter turnout was 39.5%, and international observers praised the election as calm and orderly. GOP Representative Tim Burchett got into a physical altercation on Thursday with a protester outside the Longworth House office building in Washington. The demonstrator, criticizing U.S. support for Israel and the war in Gaza, bumped Burchett, who responded by pushing the person. Burchett's office said the confrontation occurred after the protester crossed a line by making physical contact. Capitol Police questioned the protester but offered no further comment, The Hill has reported. The incident comes amid increased protest in D.C. over Israeli airstrikes and U.S. military aid, which some lawmakers like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene have publicly criticized. The ESA NASA Solar Orbiter has traced high-energy electrons nearly at light speed back to the Sun, revealing two distinct sources: small solar flares producing impulsive bursts and large coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, creating gradual extended releases. By observing hundreds of events at varying distances, the spacecraft allowed scientists to study these solar energetic electrons, or SEEs, in their early pristine state and understand how solar wind and magnetic turbulence affect their journey through space. The findings improve understanding of space weather, helping protect astronauts and satellites, and pave the way for future missions like ESA's SMILE in 2026 and Vigil in 2031, to enhance solar monitoring and prediction, space.com has reported. Stargazers, mark your calendars. A total lunar eclipse, or a blood moon, will occur on September 7th to the 8th when Earth's shadow fully covers the moon, giving it a deep red hue. This rare alignment happens about 3 times a year, with the crimson glow caused by Earth's atmosphere scattering sunlight. Observers can prepare viewing spots or capture photos of the event, while those who miss it can watch a live stream hosted by space.com. Archaeologists in Peru have uncovered a 4,000-year-old multicolored three-dimensional mural at the Yolanda site in the Tanguchi Valley, offering new insights into early civilizations in the Americas. The 3 by 6 meter mural features a large bird of prey and depictions of fish, mythological beings, and stars, highlighting social hierarchies and spiritual practices of the time. The lead archaeologist explained that shamans or priests likely held power, combining religious, scientific, and astronomical knowledge, The Guardian has reported. 26 countries have pledged post-war security guarantees for Ukraine, including a reassurance force on land, sea, and in the air, though troops would not be on the front line. French President Emmanuel Macron said the measures aim to prevent any new aggression, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the commitments as a concrete step. The U.S. contribution is still being finalized, but Russia has rejected the idea of foreign forces in Ukraine. The coalition of the willing, mainly European nations, plus Canada, Australia, and Japan, continues to coordinate military and financial support, including recent U.S.-led arms deliveries, The Guardian has reported. European leaders have pressed for stronger sanctions on Russia, whose economy shows signs of slowing despite continued military efforts. President Donald Trump indicated the U.S. could increase its military presence in Poland, signaling support for Polish security while meeting with new Polish President Karol Nawrocki at the White House. Trump also expressed frustration with stalled diplomatic efforts to end Russia's war in Ukraine, hinting at possible measures if Russian President Vladimir Putin fails to pursue a peace deal. European allies continue to press the United States for details on support for Ukraine's post-war security guarantees, though both sides remain vague on concrete commitments, Al Jazeera has reported.